Hello, everyone. I am in a local park. As you can see behind me, oh, it's just gorgeous out here today. So I am out here reading some more War and Peace, and I am enjoying it so far. I'm gonna provide an update once I get to the 400 page mark, which I'm about 15 pages away from achieving today. And I'll let you know what I think of the book so far, but spoiler alert, I am enjoying it. So I will let you know and be in touch soon. Okay, I am back. I am outside on my front porch, just enjoying this spring-like weather. I cannot bring myself to stay inside too long. But here we are. War and Peace. This is what it's looking like so far. Can you see that? Yeah, there's a lot of tabs here. And this, I am at the 400 page mark, and that takes me to, in this edition of the book, it takes me to volume 2, part 2, chapter 17. Okay, well, chapter 17 is what I'm about to start. So here are my thoughts so far. Okay, it's taking me a lot longer to read than I thought it would. This is the only book that I'm reading right now, whereas I usually have 4 books going on at once. This is the only book I'm reading, so I can be a little bit more focused on it. And with it being the middle of the month, I'm only a third of the way through, 400 pages in. This is a little over 1,200 pages. But I'm glad I decided to take my time with this. It's a great book. It's pretty awesome. So the book itself, let me tell you, it is broken up into, I think books, volumes, chapters, let me see, volumes. Okay, so it's broken up into volumes, then parts and chapters. And that really helps, like, just to keep it moving, because the chapters are very, very short. They're like 2, 3, maybe 4 pages long. So it really helps. So when you have like a short amount of time, just a little bit of time that you want to read a couple pages, you can actually read a quick chapter. So I've been finding myself doing that. Like, I'll put water to boil and I'll pick up my book and read 2 or 3 pages, while the water is boiling, or while the pasta noodles are boiling. So that really, really helps a lot, just breaking it down into very small size chunks. In the front, there is what we have here, principal characters. Okay, so I have it marked with a tab so I can reference it very quickly when I'm in the book, because yeah, there are a lot of characters and sometimes I forget how they're related to each other, or who they are. So I will come back to this very frequently, and especially because this is a Russian novel, or translated from Russian. Russians sometimes have different variations of their name, and it has them all here. So it'll say Elisaveta, also goes by Lisa, Lisaveta, Liz. Okay, and then you'll have Countess Vera, also goes by Verushka or Verashka. Then Nikolai will also go by Nikolushka, Nikolenka, Nikolashka, Kolya, Nicholas, and Coco. So, I mean, that's, and I found that also true with Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, that the Russian names, there were a couple variations. So it's helpful always to refer to the principal characters and the different variations of their names so that we're still talking about the same person. Another thing that I did with this book, because I knew there were going to be a lot of characters, I wanted to focus. And if you've been following me for long enough, you know that I really get easily confused when there are a lot of characters, trying to keep them straight, and just, and so I always have trouble with that. I did not want to have that problem this time. So all of these tabs I color coded, and I have like a little cheat sheet here that I use also as a bookmark. And I'll have a colored tab like Prince Andre is this blue, Pierre is this orange. And so when there are points in the story that I think are important for these characters, whether it's some kind of a character development, something that they're going through, just something that really describes them really well, or their thoughts, feelings, things like that, I am marking it with a tab and I'm highlighting it. And so it's really helped me a lot, because sometimes I'll be a couple chapters further into the book, and then I'm like, wait a minute, is this the guy that Prince Andre is serving under? And then I can go back and I look for my Prince Andre colored tabs, and I'll go right to it and say, oh yeah, that is, he's been stationed under this guy, so this is who we're talking about. So that's helped tremendously. I really feel like I might continue to do this with maybe some of my other classics that I'm going to be reading later on. If there are a lot of characters, or even sometimes in fantasy books. I remember with The Priory of the Orange Tree, it was hard to keep people straight. Who's who, where they're from, family histories, and things like that. So this has helped a great deal. So that's why there's so many tabs. And this is like how many cool parts of the story that I think are like pretty important. And then I have like some cool quotes. The writing is amazing. I'm really having a good time with this. So a little bit about this story. This is taking place during the Napoleonic Wars, which I find this funny, because like, how is it that I keep reading these classics that are around that time? Like Les Miserables, Napoleonic Wars time. The Count of Monte Cristo, same thing. That was when, Napoleon kind of escaped from the Isle of Elba, I think it was. So then here I have like another big, hefty, chunky classic. I mean, people are, I don't know, like these authors were really inspired by Napoleon's stuff, I guess. I don't know, but I feel like the books that are taking place during that time just tend to be big, huge chunkers. But I'm not bad about it. This is a good time. So anyway, it's following a bunch of different characters, and it is, how can I say this? Some people are in like high status in Russia. So you have Prince Vasily, we have counts, and Prince Andre, Prince Nikolai. So we have all of these really high status people, and then we have some that are not so high status and are trying to find their way. But it's following them before, during, and after. I mean, I don't know so far like what's happening after the war, but like there are times, like say Prince Andre, who's a huge character, and I'm really following him. So this is, him, his thoughts on the war, what his beliefs and what his personality was before, and then he went in and started serving, and what his experience was when he was serving, what happened, how he changed. And then even Prince Nikolai, like what his thoughts were and what his experience was in these different battles and different situations. And then when he comes home on leave, how has he changed, and how is he now interacting with his family? And, what are his what's his thought process, you know, and like how's he feeling about going back to the war, and what his position in the war means to him, you know. And it just shows there's a lot of the humanity. There's just a lot of, like, here's this big war going on, but these are the individual people and their friendships and their conversations and their feelings and their thoughts and personal struggles. And for some people, the war was just, it was just like atrocious, right? You know, it was just like, what's the point? This is senseless. And for other people, it was a way for them to have some kind of a status, how they were able to move up in some kind of hierarchy that they wouldn't have had outside of the war. You know, their families and things that were going on while they were away, when they came back. I mean, it's very complex, but just like very beautifully written and very beautifully said. And there are just so many wonderful quotes in this book that I had been highlighting. I've also been, like, you know, taking like a highlight. I take notes. I've been looking things up in on the internet or on the dictionary. They also have an appendix back here because there are a lot of notes. So, I mean, and these are broken down notes, pages 626 to 675. And then so when you're reading and you see a number and you're not really sure, you want more information, flip to the back and you'll find some more information. What really surprised me from the beginning was how much French is in here. So there was a lot of, it seemed that the very high status Russians also spoke French, like they had like governesses and were trained in speaking French, and speaking French was kind of like a status symbol, right? So I was surprised to see like how much French was in here, and and I'm loving it because y'all know that I am studying French. So it's fun that I get to read it in French and see how much of it I actually understand, which surprisingly is quite a bit. So I'm very pleased by that. But it always, you know, it has the translations in the bottom, so that's fine. But let me just share with you, let me find a quote, a little snippet to give you a taste of the writing style, which I think is just, it's great. It's great. It's very easy to understand. I mean, I was so intimidated by this book, but when I started it and just really kept track of who was who and followed along and took my time, it's very easy. It's not bad at all. And I am, like I said, having a really good time with this. The story is just amazing. And I can already see why it's such a classic. So let me find a quote tab because they look different. Here's one. You're right. Wait, who's right and who's wrong? No one. You're alive, so live. Tomorrow you'll die, just as I could have died an hour ago. And is it worth suffering when there's only a second left to live compared with eternity? Okay, so that's one quote. Let me see what else I have here. I actually had to like buy more tabs because I was like running out. It's just there was just like so much good stuff in here. I'm alive and it's not my fault, which means I must somehow go on living the best I can without bothering anybody until I die. I used to live for glory. What is glory? The same as love for others, the desire to do something for them, the desire for their praise. So I lived for others and ruined my life. And not almost, but completely. And I've been at peace since I began living for myself alone. But how can you live for yourself alone? Asked Pierre, becoming heated. What about your son, your sister, your father? but they're the same as myself. They're not others. This I know and know for certain, that the pleasure of doing good is the only certain happiness in life. There were some like scenes. Ooh, okay, here's one. Oh boy. So the descriptions in the battles is just like amazing. It's so cool. And what, I don't know what's going on in their heads, what they're feeling, you know, the trepidation or the excitement. So here's one. It says, again, as on the Enns Bridge, there was no one between the squadron and the enemy, and there lay between them, separating them, that same terrible line of the unknown and of fear, like the line separating the living from the dead. All the men sensed that line, and the question of whether they would or would not cross that line, and how they would cross it, troubled them. And then here's one. So this guy, one of the characters, is injured. He's in the field. He kind of gets up, and then there's people running towards him. Okay, and he says, "Who are they? Why are they running? Can it be they're running to me? Can it be? And why? To kill me? Me, whom everybody loves so?" He remembered his mother's love for him, his family's, his friends, and the enemy's intention to kill him seemed impossible. But maybe even to kill me? He stood for more than 10 seconds without moving from the spot or understanding his situation. The first Frenchman with the hooked nose came so close that the expression on his face could already be seen, and the flushed alien physiognomy of this man who, with lowered bayonet, holding his breath, was running lightly towards him, frightened Rostov. He seized his pistol and, instead of firing it, threw it at the Frenchman and ran for the bushes as fast as he could. He ran not with the feeling of doubt and conflict with which he had gone to the Enns Bridge, but with the feeling of a hare escaping from hounds. One undivided feeling of fear for his young, happy life possessed his entire being. Quickly leaping over the hedges with that swiftness with which he had run playing tag, he flew across the field, turning his pale, kind young face back from time to time, and a chill of terror ran down his spine. No, it's better not to look, he thought, but running up to the bushes, he turned once more. The Frenchman lagged behind, and even as he looked back, the front one had just changed his trot to a walk, and turning around, shouted something loudly to his comrade behind him. Rostov stopped. Something must be wrong, he thought. It's impossible that they should want to kill me. And meanwhile, his left arm was as heavy as though a 20-pound weight was hanging from it. He could not run any further. The Frenchman also stopped and took aim. Rostov closed his eyes and crouched down. 1, 2 bullets flew whistling past him. He gathered his last strength, held onto his left arm with his right hand, and ran to the bushes. In the bushes, there were Russian riflemen. So that's I thought that was just really, really sweet. Not sweet, but just the way that it's described. And then here we have a part where the enemies were kind of making each other laugh. So there was like a situation and they're just kind of laughing. I don't know. I think it was like about their languages and kind of mocking each other's languages, but they were just being silly. And so then there's this part that says, ho, 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 ha, 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 hoo, hoo. Peals of such healthy and merry guffawing came from among the soldiers that it crossed the line and involuntarily infected the French, after which it seemed they ought quickly to unload their guns, blow up their munitions, and all quickly go back home. But the guns remained loaded, the loopholes in the houses and fortifications looked out just as menacingly, and the unlimbered cannon remained turned against each other, just as before. So there's a lot of that in this book, just very simple. You know, there's a lot of like those simple things that bring back just, you know, like we're just humans. You know, you're a man, I'm a man. We're human beings. And in any other situation, we could be friends, right? Um, and I don't know. This book is just has so far. It's really cool. It's really good. I was hoping to finish it this month. I'm not sure that's going to happen, since we only have half a month to go, and I have like 800 pages. I'm gonna keep at it. I'm gonna keep at it. But I don't want to rush it. You know, I do not want to rush it because I am enjoying the fact that I'm taking my time. I'm writing notes in the margins, highlighting, um, uh, tagging, annotating, looking up more information, and it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And I don't. That's all I have to say, I guess, about it today. Um, yeah, and I do have to say one thing because y'all know how I feel about Les Miserables and how much time they spent, especially on the Battle of Waterloo, and certain like political nonsense. You know, it was just a bit much for me. And though this book is a lot of like war and battle, it's not so much of the landscape, it's not so much the landscape and the plans, you know, like the plan of action, what do they call it? Either way, it's not so much about that, but it's so much about the individual, and these characters are in this war, right? Like they're experiencing this war. They're, you know, they're generals, they're adjutants, they are whatever. So I like that it's like really personalizing the war. Whereas in Les Miserables, I felt they could have done without it because none of the main characters that like we were really, really following were in that war. So the book was not about the war, and it spent like so much time on politics and war and all this stuff that just wasn't necessary. Whereas this one is spending, I think, the right amount of time so that you can appreciate what's going on with these characters and what they're experiencing. So I think it's perfect. I think it's just absolutely perfect. Okay, well, that is my 1/3 of the way update for you guys, and hopefully, I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully next week I will have an 800 page mark update to share. Okay, till then, bye.